You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Well, good evening, Radio 1 listeners. You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show, Spirit 1340 WYCB, the oldest gospel radio station in Washington, D.C., and it's the first contemporary gospel outlet in the United States. Thank you for tuning in. Today is Friday, December 1st, 2023. And I'd like to remind listeners that my mom died on Christmas Day. So in December, you all have to bear with me. I talk about diabetes a lot. But today, we're not talking about it, but I will be writing about it in my column. Our show is heard throughout the DMV, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things. And a copy will be sent to you. Welcome to today's show. My guest will be Eugene Sims, Director of Healthcare Policy and Research Administration at the D.C. Department of Health. He's going to be talking about how you must renew your Medicaid benefits. There's some things changed because of COVID, and so he's keeping you up and making sure you stay in the loop. If you or someone you know is on Medicaid benefits, tell them to tune in so they can hear what's going on in the second half of our show. Now let's go to Dr. Julianne Malveaux. Dr. Julianne is a nationally known economist, former dean at Cal State Los Angeles. She's one of two president emeritus at Bennett College, where a building is named in her honor. She did so well in fundraising. She has her PhD in economics. She's a world traveler, president of Push Excel, the youth organization founded by Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson out of Chicago, Illinois. Hello to you, Dr. Julianne. Let's talk politics and the economy.
Absolutely. There's so much going on, but I want to start out on a somber note with the funeral of Rosalynn Carter. It was such a beautiful ceremony. They had it live on CNN and a couple other places. I've tuned in and out, but you know, what somebody called the Rosalynn Carter and Jimmy Carter's relationship a very public love story. Their granddaughter or daughter, Amy Carter, read a letter that President Carter wrote to First Lady Rosalynn when he was in the Navy, so before they got into politics. And he said he always forgot how, or often he forgot how beautiful she was. And when he came back home, he said he looked at her and fell in love all over again. That just seems so sweet, and but they did they were together for 77 years, and it was a beautiful service. Like I said, I tuned in and out, so I didn't see the whole thing, but I'll tell you what I did see. I saw the First Lady sitting together, and that was lovely. Of course, it was great to see Hillary there, and of course our dear sister Michelle Obama sitting there, and Miss Trump. Everybody else had on black. That's usually what you wear at a funeral, I think. You tell me if I'm wrong.
Yes, you're right.
Sometimes you can get away. Sometimes you get away with like navy blue or dark gray. This thing swishes in there with light gray, standing out, and a lot of people said it was disrespectful. But you know, I don't think she has good sense anyway. But it really was noticeable, and it really was disturbing to many people, and certainly to me. And I'm not a traditionalist. But it's just like, okay, you really need some more attention? Anyway, neither here nor there. Rosalynn Carter, rest in peace and rest in power. She was a role. She made it possible for first ladies like Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama. She was the first lady to sit in cabinet meetings. So she had enormous influence over her husband, and we're all the better for it. I'm rest in peace and power, Rosalynn Carter. Now, of course, what's dominating the news these days is the Middle East, Hamas, and Biden. And there are three tales to this story. First of all, the ceasefire, or not ceasefire, they don't call it that, but anyway, the recess, the truce, whatever it is, it was extended for 2 more days, and it may be extended even longer. There are conversations going on. There was a minor skirmish with some shots exchanged, but that didn't stop the continuation of the hostage exchange. That's a hostage/prisoner exchange, which is taking place. We'll know Whether or not they're going on, I think we'll know whether they're going to go on any further than they initially agreed to, which was, I think, Wednesday. We'll know as the week unfolds what happens. But this is at some level exciting, at some level very frustrating. President Biden's role in this Israel situation has turned a lot of people off. He had a closed-door meeting with some Muslim Americans, and he wanted to talk about Islamophobia, which we know exists, but they wanted to talk about the fact that he has been so one-sided in his embrace of Israel, ignoring them. He told the Australian Prime Minister he didn't believe the numbers that Hamas was giving out about the 13,000 people who died. And they felt that was very demeaning and condescending. And I think that since he had that meeting, which was last week, he's been a little bit more careful. But it leaves a very bad taste in a lot of people's mouth that he clearly, first of all, would never call for a ceasefire. Secondly, basically unabashedly embraces Israel, embraces Israel to the exclusion of Palestinians. And Palestinians and Hamas are not the same thing. So he's losing a lot of points, a lot of appreciation by people who might ordinarily support him. Keith Ellison, who used to be a congressman and now the attorney general in Minnesota, was one of the people included in the meeting. And he said even though the meeting went longer than it was supposed to go, half an hour, it went over an hour, and even though he listened, and, Biden does that empathy thing real well, but he said that even with all of that, they walked away dissatisfied. Why do we care about that? Well, a recent New York Times poll shows that if only young people were voting, Trump would beat Biden. Young people have totally turned off of Biden. They don't like him. Now, this is polling data, and, of course, it's 1,200 people. So if somebody will say, well, may not be accurate. But this is a very bad news 1 year out of an election. But young people are saying, Basically, young people are not embracing Biden. Part of it is the entire Israel situation. That's a big part of it. But the other part of it is many of them have issues with his age. Many of them have issues with his many of them were holding out and hoping for student loan relief, and they didn't get it. Now, that was not the president's fault. He put it in there, but the Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional. Well, they're not looking at that. They went to the polls thinking that this man was going to hook them up, and the fact was that they didn't. Now, I'm laughing. This is a Biden piece, but it's not. It's kind of funny, but it's not really funny. But Hunter Biden, as you know, has been under extreme legal scrutiny. Republicans have tried to start impeachment procedures against President Biden because of Hunter Biden's activities. Hunter Biden has said he will testify in an open meeting. He does not need to have a closed-door meeting. He will testify in an open-door meeting, open hearing. And why? His lawyer said because if they did a closed hearing, they know that the Republicans, each one of them will come out and go on the meeting with their own spin. He said, let's let everybody hear what Hunter Biden had to say. So I'm chuckling because that was a really crafty move and good for them. Mm-hmm. Now, other congressional news, of course, we've got that George Santos from New York who basically lied about everything. He possibly will be expelled from Congress, but many say that it's not fair because he hasn't been convicted of anything. We don't know, but he remains in the news. He's a very interestingly bitter member of Congress. He says they just don't want him there because they don't like him. Well, there's this part about you taking money from your campaign funds. There's this other part about using it for Botox. There's so many parts. But as one of his Republican supporters said, but he still hasn't been convicted. So if he's not convicted, quite frankly, he says he won't run for re-election. He got away with it. Finally, we have to pay a little bit of attention to what's going on the global front. China, of course. We have passed laws to make it easier to own electronic vehicles, but China produces most of those. And in the global economic skirmish, is our legislation helping China economically? It's a question that we have to ask. We also have to ask about exchange programs, student exchange programs, because given the tension between the United States and China, will we be able to maintain student exchange programs? And that's another big question. And then finally, Lyndia, there were 31 workers trapped in an Indian tunnel for days. It might have been weeks, and they're out now. It's exciting international news. So that's what's been on my mind this week.
Okay.
And, yes.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Dr. J. And when you travel this week, I know you're on your way out of town soon. Safe travel.
Thank you, my sister. I appreciate it.
All right. I'll talk to you. Bye.
Bye.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington Informer religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Who Moved My Cheese is a book about two types of people, those who accept change quickly and move on, and those who hem and haw and try to figure things out. They didn't see change coming and waste valuable time trying to figure out what happened. How did this happen to me? Let's call this group procrastinators. The lesson inside the cheese story is simple. Life is change. Brother said it best when he said, if I accept you as you are, I will make you worse. However, if I treat you as though you are what you're capable of becoming, I help you become that. We must change and keep moving. The Bible tells us to seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open unto you, ask and it shall be given.
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it. Be inspired.
And we are back. Thank you for tuning in to the Lyndia Grant Show. You're listening to Spirit 1340 WYCB. Now we're going to go to the second half of our show. We are talking to a guest today, Mr. Eugene Sims from the Department of Healthcare Finance, also known as DC Medicaid. How are you today, Mr. Eugene Sims?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having us today.
All right. I thank you. I'd like to thank my friend Dorinda for connecting us. We've had one part already about Medicaid, and so today you're going to help bring our guests up to date a little bit more about some things they need to know. Now, let me tell the listeners a little bit about you. In 2017, Eugene joined Department of Healthcare Finance as a policy analyst within the Division of Regulation and Policy Management. He was promoted to Associate Director a year later, where he was responsible for the management of policy development and the promulgation of regulations. In 2020, Eugene became the special assistant to the director, where he leveraged his Medicaid policy expertise, and he advised the director and senior staff on major policy and financing matters related to health care programs at DHCF. And it had a focus on hospital policy and payment. Additionally, Eugene served as the acting director for HCPRA for several months prior to assuming his current role, where he oversees day-to-day operations of the administration. He holds a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Maryland, College Park, and he has a Juris Doctorate, a JD, with a certificate in health law and policy from the University of Maryland, Carey School of Law. Today, I'm going to be talking to Mr. Sims about Medicaid renewals. Medicaid redeterminations began back in the spring, and Dorinda had me have another guest from your agency on in April of this year, after the public health emergency continuous coverage requirements expired. You all know when COVID was going on, listeners, a lot of things had to be done a different way, and this is one of those things. So I'm asking now if Mr. Sims can talk to us about what it is you all need to know that's going on right now that might relate to you if you are a Medicaid recipient. Mr. Sims?
And thank you for that introduction and that little bit of background for Medicaid renewal. So as you mentioned, I want to share with you guests, as you mentioned, during the period of the public health emergency, DC Medicaid, Department of Healthcare Finance, was able to take steps to simply extend everyone who was enrolled in Medicaid's coverage without requesting any additional information from our enrolled beneficiaries. Effective April of this year, that's April 2023, all that changed with the end of the Medicaid continuous enrollment requirement, and the big takeaway for all DC residents is that DC Medicaid and other Medicaid jurisdictions throughout the country, we are back to the annualized Medicaid renewal process. So that means over the course of the year from April 2023 to May 2024, we are restarting Medicaid redeterminations, and the agency will be reaching out to you via mail, text, email. You might see us on bus ads. You might hear us on the radio shows like this to make sure that everyone is aware of the ongoing Medicaid restart and looking out for their Medicaid renewal information.
Now, when you say restart, help me understand what that means. They're still keeping the same program they had, a package, or whatever it is, coverage, or is this something new that you all are doing?
So most folks will be keeping their same benefits as long as you remain eligible. So again, Medicaid is a program for either the low income or the disabled individuals. So if you continue to have the same income or you continue to be a person with disabilities, you will likely remain eligible under your same program code. We call it Medicaid Restart because coming out of the federal public health emergency, the COVID-19 public health emergency, we are restarting normal operations. And again, we are back to the annual renewal process that went away during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So you're kind of getting back to the way you did business before, but it may be a little bit of a difference. I keep saying we'll never be the same. We're going to go to a new normal. Maybe not quite the same, but close to it. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. And we know that a lot of folks who may have come onto our program during the 3 years of the pandemic may have never gone through this annual renewal process. All they know is the DC Medicaid agency taking steps to simply extend their Medicaid benefits. But what we need everyone to be aware of is that we are back to the annual renewal process, that traditional process where the DC agency, we attempt to passively extend your benefits looking at available electronic information. And if we're unable to do so, we're going to mail you a packet in the mail. It's going to have a distinctive green marking under the return address. Green means go. It's time to renew your Medicaid benefits. So when you get that packet in the mail, you can fill it out via paper and send it back to us in the mail. You can drop it off at a local service center, but we think the best way for everyone to make sure that they maintain access to their Medicaid benefits is by going online at districtdirect.dc.gov. Again, that's districtdirect.dc.gov, completing their Medicaid renewal and making sure that they retain access to their medical benefits.
And what if someone has moved? Tell the listeners what they should do.
So we know there's been a lot of time since the start of the pandemic and now. So if someone has moved, it's key that we get your correct address on file. So if you want to update your address, we have a few ways you can do it. You can call our public benefit call center at 202-727-5355. You can speak to one of our representatives and say, hey, I want to update my address. I've moved, and I want to make sure DC Medicaid has my current address. You can also go online at districtdirect.dc.gov. Again, that's districtdirect.dc.gov to simply submit a change. You can create an account, and one of the options that you'll have once you create an account is to change update your address, change your address to make sure that your correct address is on file with DC Medicaid.
Okay, that's very good. All right. Well, what about other information that you want them to know? Are people going door to door? I know you got some senior citizens and some handicapped people who might not know how to get this done, like what you just said. Go online. You have people going door to door to help, or there an office down there that they can come to. Somebody in the family can maybe take them so they could get assistance. Special needs.
Right. So all of those things are happening. So I want to offer a few different routes. If you are working with a parent, our rules allow a child who's working with a parent or someone who's more computer savvy to simply complete the Medicaid renewal. We encourage that. But also, if someone is in one of our special programs, they're aged or disabled or have or otherwise need assistance with activities of daily living, they're most likely going to be in one of our long-term care programs. And specifically for individuals who are in our long-term care programs, like a nursing facility or one of our home and community-based waivers, it is for those specifically high-need communities, it is someone's responsibility to make sure your renewal is submitted and completed on time and that you maintain access to your benefits. So we don't want folks who are enrolled in those special programs and who may need additional assistance completing their renewal to worry. For all of those folks, there is a case manager who will assist you in completing your renewal, and it is their job and responsibility, as well as your care teams, to make sure your renewal is submitted on time and that you maintain access to your Medicaid benefits.
So they will actually come to those centers and meet with people as they need to.
Your care manager will reach out to you over the phone. Your care manager may, work with your long-term care facility to submit your renewal. They may also come to your home. Your care manager will engage with you a lot of different ways to make sure those renewals are submitted. Now, if you're just someone who isn't in one of our special long-term care programs and you need assistance completing your renewal, again, I'm going to invite everyone to call that public benefit call center, that 202-727-5355. Again, that's 202-727-5355. Someone on the phone will be able to walk you through that District Direct renewal application process and give you the technical assistance you need to complete that. Now, if you want to go in person and you need in-person assistance, as individuals may be aware, the district has several service centers throughout the district. There are 5 service centers. You can go online, find your closest service center, and if you want to go in person and get help with your filling out your renewal in person, you can go to one of those 5 service centers. If you're a senior or otherwise have a disability, the Department of Aging and Community Living also has several senior centers where they have staff on site to help you complete your renewal. So there's a lot of resources out there to make sure folks have the ability to complete their renewal via various modalities.
And then I remember from the last interview, you all provide rides like Uber or Lyft in case someone needs that.
Right. So if you are enrolled in Medicaid and you need transportation to access your medical benefits, like you need a ride to your doctor's office, we have something that's called a non-emergency medical transportation benefit. You call our vendor or you call your managed care entity, and we set up a ride to make sure you can get to your doctor's office. That's one of our benefits.
Okay. Would they be able to use that to come down to your office as well?
Well, they wouldn't be able to use that to go down to my office, and that's why we have a lot of different ways where you can submit your renewal online. You can mail it back to us. You can fax your renewal back to us at 202-671-440. Again, you can fax your renewal back to us at 202-671-440. And again, we think the best way to submit your renewal is by going online at districtdirect.dc.gov.
What if someone is computer savvy and they just want to email it? Is the package going to be mailed to them, and could they email it?
So right now, we're not recommending individuals email it back to us, but if you're computer savvy, we're encouraging you again to go online, create that account, and submit your renewal via districtdirect.dc.gov. If an individual needs a tutorial video, or they want to learn in a very short way how to create their account, link their account, and complete their renewal, we have dedicated tutorial videos at dhcf.dc.gov/Medicaid-renewal, where individuals can see tutorial videos, learn for themselves how to create their account on districtdirect.dc.gov, and complete their Medicaid renewal.
All right. Well, if there's anything else, we're just about out of time. I want to give you a chance to give your closing comments.
Sure. I want to remind everyone, act now to stay covered. We started Medicaid. We initiated Medicaid renewals back in April of 2023. We are now closing in on December of 2023. So we are well through this process. We have initiated Medicaid renewals for over 220,000 district residents, and we have about 80,000 more initiations to go. So we're well over 2/3 of the way through this process. We want to stay strong. We want to make sure individuals who have not had an opportunity to renew, that they act now to stay covered so that they do not risk any gaps in their coverage. And again, if you want to reach out to us, we have various number of ways you can get into contact with someone in the DC Medicaid system. Again, we have the Public Benefit Call Center at 202-727-5355. And you can also email myself and my team at medicaid.renewal@dc.gov if you have any questions about the Medicaid renewal process or want to get connected to other Medicaid renewal resources.
Is there a deadline date? I'm just trying to let them know how much time they have. What kind of leeway do they have? Their deadline cutoff date.
Sure. So everyone enrolled in the Medicaid program has something that's known as a certification end date. The certification end date is the date your Medicaid benefits are set to expire. We are going to reach out to you 60 to 90 days in advance of that end date to make sure you initiate your Medicaid renewal. So that certification end date is different for every Medicaid beneficiary, but the key takeaway is we're going to reach out to you 90 to 60 days in advance of that to make sure you have time to submit your renewal timely. And I want to add one piece to that. If you are unable to submit your Medicaid renewal by your certification end date, we also have a 90-day universal grace period where if you submit that renewal packet during that grace period, we can still use that renewal to get you connected back to your coverage. So we're going to reach out to you 60 to 90 days ahead of your certification end date, and we have up to 90 days after that end date. You can still submit that renewal and get connected back to your coverage.
All right. Well, that sounds great to me. I think the listeners will benefit tremendously by following District Direct DC.gov at districtdirect@dc.gov and calling 202-727-5355. Again, that is 202-727-5355. You can't miss it, listeners, because Mr. Sims repeated it 8 times. He said it a lot of times. You can tell he's good at this. Thank you so much, Mr. Sims, for being our guest today.
Thank you for having us.
All righty. All right, so now I'm going to continue. That concludes our show for this week. Now we're going to talk to you about going and listening to our show every week. If you want to get a copy of this show, all you have to do is subscribe. Subscribe to the Lyndia Grant Show. And then listen out for our guests again next week. We always have a good show for you every Friday. This week, subscribe to our YouTube channel and never miss an episode. A copy will come to your phone or computer automatically. Read my column in the Washington Informer newspaper. Call us at 240-602-6295. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. Next week, we'll have another exciting guest for you. Join us at my church, the All Nations Baptist Church, where our pastor is the Reverend Dr. James Coleman. We're located at 2 Rhode Island Avenue, Northeast, Washington, D.C. Look for the church with the red doors. We hope this show has been helpful to you, and I'd ask that you would share it with anyone else you know who are Medicaid recipients. Earl Nightingale once said, words, thoughts, and deeds have a boomerang effect, so be careful what you send out. Scripture says, we do become what we think about, and my people perish for the lack of knowledge. So think on these things. From the Lyndia Grant Show, I'm your host, Lyndia Grant. Until next week, good day.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with your host, Lyndia Grant.